Hello there, my sickly friends, and welcome back to the next installment of Rip Returns Super Mario Bros., a video game video series where I go back to games that I haven't beaten before as a child and try to regain a little bit of my lost glory. Today we continue on with Super Mario Bros. 1. We're making some good progress here and getting very close to the end game, so let's review the rules that brought us here. Rule 2 is to know my limits. This was important at the beginning, and it's even more important now as we get into the end game. I only have so much Mario talent to begin with, and I can't rely on anything that I think I might have had from childhood, or frankly, even from more modern games, because this one just doesn't play the same. So I need to approach the game as a game I'm learning, and not a game I should already be competent in. And I need to accept that because I'm learning, there are limits to what I can do. The second rule, which doesn't apply as much today because we're going to spend a lot of our time in the later levels, is to earn my warps. Essentially what that means is I can't just warp straight to 8-1, or, from 4-1 to 8-1. I need to earn it by beating previous levels. You'll see in this one I only warp as far as World 3 to try to take advantage of the Turtle 1-up trick in 3-1. But the idea basically is not to get ahead of myself. And rule 3, which is the most important rule for today, is to let it happen. Learning Mario, gaining experience, involves a lot of death, and I need to let those deaths happen. That means dying again and again and again, as you've seen in the past. Just quitting, like resetting, or just throwing myself into a cliff and calling it a strategic death, those things aren't going to help me gain experience. So I need to go ahead and play out even the worst runs to try and gain experience, and that also involves things like really taking advantage of the a restart feature so that you can go straight back into the world you were on when you died. Alright, with that aside, let's go on to the bulk of the episode. An episode that I am calling The Price of Progress, or the 200 Death Extravaganza. Starting off here, I want to note three things. First of all, we are going to fast forward until the action gets interesting. Secondly, we are going to be doing a lot more in this episode than we normally do. You may note that the episode is almost an hour and a half long. And that is because, as you saw last time, we have finally reached World 8. And today, once we get there, we're going to stay there and practice. Third, I am working on a rather intense bout of tonsillitis at the moment, so my voice is coming to you courtesy of Dayquil and cough drops. So it's going to be a little bit lower and more raspy, and I may not be talking quite as much. Those things aside, though, I think we do have some interesting things to talk about once we get into Worlds 6, 7, and 8, so we will do that when the time comes. We're going to pop down to normal speed here for a moment to go through 3-4 to show that sometimes deaths can just be frustrating and stupid. There are deaths that occur because you haven't learned things and you need to, and there are deaths that occur because of bad timing and bad play, and that's the two deaths that we're going to see here in 3-4 before we ramp up for what's going to be a deathless World 4. Alright, back to Ultra Speed for World 4, and like I said, we're gonna get through this deathless, which is a very proud thing for me. From this point on, you'll note that I am having to edit out a fair number of pauses. That is because when I was originally recording this video, I was sick, but in a different time. This is gameplay from February, early February of 2023, and I am recording the audio in May of 2023. And I managed to have 2 different bouts of sickness that coincided. And the only reason I remember that is because they're the last 2 bouts that I've had. So, I don't know, I guess that's some sort of karma or something. Either way, moving on. There are deaths in video games you can be proud of, and then there's that. Of course, here we come to that traditional 5-4 sticking point, and I want to commend myself here. It's very well executed until I completely blow it. Yeah. Either way, though, it was very well executed, and I get to move on at least. Because today's video is so very long, we're going to turn it back up to rocket speed until we get back to the more interesting bits of action, though I do want to point out that I have a pretty good run here this time through the opening stages of World 6, which shows the benefits of playing through and gaining experience. Coming into 6-4, I want to rehash a concern that I've brought up before, the death cluster, where deaths seem to breed deaths. See, we started out there with, I think, a pretty good duck to avoid the fire bar, and we're going to just run straight into an area of profound turbulence as one fairly reckless death in quick succession is going to lead to a couple others that I think are clearly reckless and unnecessary. A little bit of that old clustering. And it's going to show the other side of that whole experience concept and how sometimes you need the experience to build a familiarity that can counter the concept of the death spiral that led to this game over. And we get to play through 6 again in its entirety for those who may have been upset that I fast-forwarded through the last run. Alright, I hope you got a good taste of World 6 shenanigans, so we're gonna warp speed ahead back to 6-4. And Bowser's not going to stand much of a chance here when you come into him fully powered up like we are today. And, I mean, it doesn't exactly feel super gratifying. Like, I don't really feel the urge to bust out the Deathless graphic for that after the struggles it took to get through it. But, hey, we did get him. And that Fire Flower does make it sweeter. And now we're back into the rare air territory of the bullet hell that is 7-1. Not the most Valhalla-worthy death there, but overall, I'm pretty happy with that run-through of World 7. I mean, we got all the way to the boss level, so we're gonna take it again from the top and see what we can do with that applied experience. I think it's clear that we have begun to gain a more situational experience because we have developed a solid basic platform, which should have taught us not to do stupid things like stick around for these Hammer Brothers, but we still conquered them because we have developed a good experience base for getting through the game in general. So now attention is turning more to specifically building up the skill to get through World 7 level by level. So I'm happy with the progress that we had through World 7 the first time because it's contributing in a more direct way to avoiding things like that double bullet setup and getting us towards the end. And with a big fat plumber, we're coming up on the boss. So that's basically a guaranteed trip with a very swaggy through the hammer jump. My friend, golf clap on that. That is a swag axe. Thank you, Gimli. And we're on to World 8. And from this point on in the video, you'll note that we're not even 40 minutes in. The remainder of this video will be entirely in World 8, because I have added all of the skill that I believe I can add by playing through the game in general. Now, I must hoard experience and generate experience from playing through this final gauntlet of levels. Every level in World 8 has its own specific quirks to overcome that really define it. In this one, it's the climbing. The climbing while dodging enemies coming at you. I mean, in World 7, you're not doing a lot of climbing in that Bullet Bill gauntlet. But here in 8-2, you're doing climbing, dodging Lakitus, well, hopefully dodging Lakitus and Spinies and Koopas. And it's a piling on of different things you need to learn that I clearly haven't learned yet. Talking about the specific gimmicks of the World 8 levels. World 8 Level 1 really has two. On one hand, there are the many odd gap jumps that you have to do. Like the infamous gap, one-step gap jump, or this bit here, just as examples. But there is also just flat out the idea that every time it seems like you're getting to the end of 8-1, you're actually not. There are almost like false endings just to make you frustrated and not only drag out the level, but to test your patience with it. The lack of checkpoints really actually, now that I think about it, intensifies that feeling that the level just should be over by now, and it's just not. now we're coming up to one of the most encouraging and intentionally, I assume, frustrating parts of the entirety of World 8, 8-2's Infinite Lives section. If you can get to that 1-up in World 8 Level 2, there is no reason you should ever die out on this stage. That, at first, may seem like, oh, it's a great gift, but it also can be used by the devs, and I think is used by the developers, as a way to ratchet up the stakes in this level far beyond what they already are, which is something else. Because if you don't get there, then it feels extra debilitating to your efforts. And here, as we go through this, I don't know, 15-20 second section, where you're supposed to be fighting your way to this 1-up mushroom, the inability to obtain it just makes it that much more frustrating. Like I said, I mean, you can see how much more tense the level becomes, knowing that there's salvation right there, but you have to obtain it for yourself. So we come through on this next attempt, and we know, oh, well, last time I didn't get it, so this time I super have to get it, and that just, you know, here, I do get it successfully, but that, at least for a moment, made things all the more intense. But that death seems almost trivial because I got it. I got the 1-up this time. Yeah, this is not the kind of area you should be surviving through, so with that bad play, obviously, I don't think I was going to. But again, I'm still at 2 lives. I'm feeling very good. And the tension immediately rebuilds as soon as you restart the level. And now I've just cost myself one of those precious lives. The tension grows even higher. And as you may have noticed, Little Rip, the death counter down there, is getting us very close to another big-time goal. So we've got that weighing on us too. Luckily, I didn't know that at the time, because that probably would have just made things worse. And here we're coming up to a very unkindly jump for a platformer of my caliber. And again, you know, just that constant interplay of tensions. I should probably stop going on about it, but it just really impresses me now that I think about it from outside of playing the game. The way the developers, Miyamoto and whoever else were in charge of this level, are just manipulating you with this 1-up. And no 1-up's gonna save us this time, ladies and gentlemen. That is Death 200. Death 200 of this run, and we are starting World 8 over again. We're gonna zip it up a little bit, and just let the deaths pop up here, because, I mean, you've seen 8-1 a fair bit, so we'll keep it going fast until we have a reason to slow it down. But you'll notice I'm doing it a little bit slower, so that you have at least more of a chance to watch me do terrible. And down the pit I go, and that's another run through World 8 that has to be restarted. And we're just going to keep it on going at the fast speed because we've still got a lot of video to go through. And I imagine this is going to get even more tedious for people watching, if, you know, anyone ever does, than it gets for the guy playing it. Popping back out in 8-2, still in fast forward, but you're going to notice that we're coming up to another death cluster. A death cluster with the 1-up in play. So we're going to watch that play out in fast motion and see things like missing the obvious 1-up, which, oh my goodness. And this time I couldn't take, advantage of it at all. And that's just really sad, isn't it? Alright, battles on stairs and such have gone to the wayside, and we are finally on to new territory with World 8 Level 3. 8 Level 3, as you may know, is defined as being really dang flat without a whole lot of horrible jumps. But brother, if you like Hammer Brothers, this level's got your Hammer Brothers. Again, something that amazes me going on through my play is how I can just fall into a pit with a mushroom right there. Anyway, something that amazes me as I go on through my playthrough is how little of a threat Hammer Brothers are to me comparatively than they have been in the past. It's not that I don't fear them, it's that I am so much better prepared for them, except for when I do things like that. I mean, I think a lot of it is age and general experience, but there's also the experience that I've gained here, and I can't discount all the time that I've spent watching people play, for example, Mario Maker, which has shown me how, you know, a better Mario streamer handles Hammer Brothers, and it really takes the mystique and the lethality out of them, in my mind at least. It's kind of ironic when you get down to it that the most lethal type of Hammer Brother can be the kind that doesn't have anything to jump on. Well, we're coming up to another one of those little death clusters, and I mean, I know that they seem a little worse than they normally would because I'm playing at double speed, but I think all it really does there is serve to highlight the point that when the gameplay gets as tense as the gameplay is getting here, the simple fact that the tension is going up is increasing those little clusters. Like, that was 3 deaths in fairly quick succession that seem all the closer because they're playing at double speed, but they are definitely not unrelated. They definitely all come from the frustrations that have built up from the previous death. Alright, back to World 3. We're gonna slow it down, take it at pace. 2 bullets from the bullet bill, that's interesting. Well, 2 bullets from the cannon. I don't know if the cannons have names, I'm sure they do. If we can call fireballs poo-to-boos, then we must have a name for the cannon. It's probably like Carl the Cannon or some crap like that. And a terrible mushroom death there. I wish that had been the first death like that we had suffered today, but obviously it's not. And here we're going to get back to that lethal gauntlet of Hammer Brothers featuring the extra insidious Hammer Brother who's just standing on the ground. But we've got this Koopa shell that we could take him out with, like that one. And what? What? We're gonna need to back that up. Yeah, look at that. Look, that shell cannot be any further inside that Hammer Brother right now. This is not on me. This is on the game. That has got to be a 1 in 1,000 glitch. We're just going to try to move on, gather ourselves, and deal with that frustration. Because this is a good run and we don't want to blow it. And we haven't blown it. Here we are, 8-4, Bowser's Lair. We have made it to the promised land, folks. And it is time to get really in-depth. As you may know, Bowser's Lair is a maze. A far more convoluted maze than the other mazes in the boss levels so far in this game. And I'm not going to lie to you, I am using the Mario Wiki to get through the maze. So a couple of the pause breaks you're going to see edited out here are me looking at the maze, because frankly I've been playing this game for about a month at, a half hour at a time, and I'm getting kind of tired of it. I want to just beat it and be done with it. So I don't consider a maze being so vital to my skill set that I can't just look up the way to get out of it, because I mean, that's not technical skill, that's memorization of a pattern, and I just don't want to do that. I just want to beat the game. And I think, it's legitimate enough to beat the game without learning the maze by trial and error. The girder in the lava here is a tricky, tricky little boy. I mean, that is really kind of mean. That is an intentional play on the palettes. And you'll notice that I don't super know what I'm doing. That's why I eventually rely on the mazes. Like, I never ever would have found that if I hadn't relied on the maze maps on the Mario Wiki. So you can complain all you want, but I mean, come on, how many friggin' Kaizo type blocks are there in the base Mario? This isn't Mario 2 Japan, where Kaizo blocks are par for the course, and you've got wind, and I don't know, Koopas have Tommy guns, or whatever weird crap they do in that game. And of course, you can't get through Bowser's Castle without a frickin' water level. And here we go. And a very stalwart foe. And I could have jumped right there. Could have had him... No. Just let him kill me. But that's fine. I think that is a very good first trial. We're going to zoom it up and see if we can't get back there today. Alright, it's time for the Koopa Shell Gandit Volume 2, and it's gonna work this time, I tell you what. Oh boy. Yeah. You know that saying, fools rush in? I think that may have been about me. You know what makes the big Koopa slide maneuver work? Bring in a friggin' fireball. Dodge that, ya punk. Yeah, that's right, Little Rip. Revenge indeed. Yeah, I think we're gonna punch ourselves a ticket to World 8 Level 4. I'm gonna hit the nasty, kinda hidden block just for swag points. Not a lot of swag points, it's no swag act situation, but hey, we did it. And we're off to the Promised Land. Well, the creepy keep in front of the Promised Land. I get that the palette is limited in in regular Nintendo games, rather. But man, what terrible conditions must Bowser keep these Goombas in for them to be gray instead of their natural brown color? And of course, you saw right there with the girder that I mentioned before, they really do use that palette to screw you over in this one. I'm sure they could have chosen another of their, 4 to 8 colors for that particular girder if they wanted to, and they specifically chose not to. So we'll just, go past the sick, light-deprived Goombas. Head on to the pale, grayscale Buzzy Beetles. The Koopas, who look surprisingly normal. Oh, Bowser, I think that's a little bit of favoritism on your part, my friend. And on to the next part of the pipe maze. And very fittingly, get cheaped. Oh boy. Next time, the final episode of Rip Returns to Super Mario.